Welcome to the lesson in Chapter 5, Section 9, 5-9, Writing Decimals as Fractions. This is a fairly straightforward lesson as long as we know the chart to use. So this is going to be invaluable for you in this lesson. For example, if I were to do place values, let's go just a few places like tens and a ones place. Then you have a decimal, because everything to the right of the decimal is less than 1. And the first place value after a decimal point is tenths, then hundredths, then thousandths, and we'll go as far as 10 thousandths. You could obviously go more, but for our purposes, as far as we'll ever go in this unit. So if you have this chart, it makes it easy to do the kinds of problems that are in Lesson 5-9. So for example, if I gave you this decimal, 0.8, and asked you to change it into a fraction in simplest form, you would do this. Look at the number that I have here. It's 8. It's just to the right of the decimal, so this is in the tenths place. You could think of it as being in the tenths place on our chart. And so since that 8 is in the tenths place, it's the only, or I could say last number in my decimals after the decimal point. That's my denominator for my fraction. The 8 is in the tenths place, so 10 is my denominator. And in that tenths place is 8 for the numerator. And once I've done that, the only question I have to ask is that in its simplified form? And for this, the answer is no, because can you think of a number that divides evenly into both 8 and 10? Well, they're both even numbers, so 2 will work. So I would still have to take the extra step of dividing them 8 by 2 and the 10 by 2. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So 4/5 is the simplified fraction form of 0.8. So again, putting these numbers onto the chart does help to show you what your denominator is going to be. So let me have you try one. I'm going to give you this 0.6, and I'll have you try it. In a moment, I'll have you press the pause button, unpause when you're done, and then you'll see me continue on with the solution. So convert 0.6 into a fraction in its simplest form. Press the pause button now. Okay, let's see what you got, and let's see how you did. So in this case, there's one number to the right of the decimal point. That's the tenths place, because that's one space to the right of the decimal point. So you can think of this as 6/10. So 10 is your denominator. 6 is the value of your numerator. This is not in simplified form, because they're both even numbers. So I can divide the 6 by 2 and the 10 by 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So 0.6 in its simplest fractional form is 3/5. All right, let's go on to another example. Take it one step further. What if I gave you 0.28? Again, we're taking advantage of our chart, because right after the decimal are two numbers, a 2 and an 8. So right after the decimal, we're writing in a 2 and an 8. The number farthest to the right occupies the hundredths place, so that's my denominator. And out of that hundredths, I have 28 in the numerator. And again, ask myself the question, is 28 over 100 a fraction in its simplest form? The answer to that is no. So use your divisibility rules. It's an even number. There's a faster way than using 2, but we'll just go that way, since it's easy to see that they're both even numbers, so 2 will work. going into both of them evenly. So 28 divided by 2 is 14, and 100 divided by 2 is 50. But here again, they're both even numbers, so I can divide by 2 another time. And 14 divided by 2 is 7, and 50 divided by 2 is 25. There is no number that divides evenly into both 7 and 25. So 0.28 is a fraction in its simplest form as 7 over 25. So I'm going to give you another problem to do. And you can press the pause button to work it out and then unpause to see the answer. So try 0.75. Hit the pause button now. All right, welcome back. As you can see, 0.75, there's two numbers to the right of the decimal, so I'm writing my two numbers to the right of the decimal. The farthest it goes to the right is in the hundredths place, so that's my denominator. And I've got 75 to go in the numerator. Again, ask the question, is that in simplest form? Answer is no. I know 5 will go into both of these because this ends in a 5 and this ends in a 0. 5 will go into any number that ends in a 5 or 0. So I can divide 75 by 5 and 100 by 5. 75 divided by 5 is 15. 100 divided by 5 is 20. Ask myself the question, can I divide another number that goes into both 15 and 20? And again, they end in 5 or 0, so I can divide by 5 one more time. 15 divided by 5 is 3. 20 divided by 5 is 4. So 0.75 in its simplest fractional form is 3 over 4, or 3/4. Only one more to go, and that just is going to throw in a whole number, just so that you don't get confused. So for example, what if I gave you this? Biggest one, 15.125. So fill in the numbers on your chart just as you have them. To the left of the decimal is a 1 and a 5, so in order there is a 15.125. This one goes to the thousands place, so 1,000 is going to be my denominator, and only the 125 goes as part of the fraction because everything to the left of the decimal is a whole number, so that becomes the whole number of a mixed number. So to the left of the decimal, 15 stays as it is, and you're only evaluating the decimal part by using the chart. And then you still have to ask yourself the question, is 125 over 1,000 simplified as far as it'll go? Answer to that is no, because this ends in a 5, this ends in a 0. So 5 will go into both of those. 125 divided by 5 is 25. 1,000 divided by 5 is 200. Is that as far as I can go? Nope. Ends in a 5 and a 0, so I can divide by 5 again. 25 divided by 5 is 5. 200 divided by 5 is 40. Is that as far as I can go? Nope. Because it ends in a 5 or a 0, so I can divide by 5 one more time. 5 divided by 5 is 1. 40 divided by 5 is 8. So it could go all the way down to 1/8. So my final answer is 15. That's the whole number. And 1/8. Okay, so you did have to do a little bit more work for that one. And so let me have you try one of these. See how you do. So I will give you 42.425. So hit the pause button and take your time and work this one out. Okay, let's see how you did. Like I said, a little tougher one. 42, anything to the right of the decimal point, is my fraction. It goes to the thousands place, so 1,000 is my denominator. 425 is my numerator. The 42 will always be a part of the problem. It's just a point now of simplifying the fraction. Ends in a 5 and a 0, so 5 works. 1,000 divided by 5 is 200. 425 divided by 5 is 85. Still ends in a 5 and a 0, so I can divide by 5 again. 200 divided by 5 is 40. 85 divided by 5 is 17. And then I asked myself the question, is there a number that can divide both into 17 and 40? The answer is no. It's simplified as far as it'll go. So my final answer is 42 and 17 over 40. So that concludes Chapter 5, Lesson 9. And appreciate your attention.